It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, we're joined by none other than Joe from the Lost Cause Ranch to talk about chopping in half his perfectly good Discovery 4. We discuss the news and not a Land Rover in the movies. And now, without further delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today.
I'm the cast aluminum badge to Steven's plastic roundel. I'm the substantial figurehead of podcasting, Ike Goss.
I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, this week in the news, some exciting stuff, I guess. The fine folks over at JLR have launched the Defender Awards, which may sound familiar.
Yeah, I thought they had a Defender Service Awards.
Well, that's the Defender Service Awards. These are the Defender Awards.
What? Okay, that's not confusing at all.
No.
How are these different?
Well, this one recognizes charities and rewards them with a Land Rover Defender. The other one recognizes charities and rewards them with a Land Rover Defender.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's...
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So
that sounds really similar.
This one is an international sort of effort. So they're doing the sort of rollout on a sort of global level, I guess, now of what was originally a sort of very focused on the U.S. market Defender Service Awards. I believe the Defender Service Awards continue, but have absolutely nothing to do with this.
So Joey's getting some royalties on this, huh?
I sure hope he is, at least, getting something. But yeah.
Yeah, no, this is really interesting. So I'm just reading about it now. So they've revealed the international winners. So
yes, they have. Yeah.
When they say they revealed them, is there voting on this like there was on the standard?
It looks
Service
like
Awards?
This time there's like a judging panel. So they talk about the fact that there is a international Defender Awards judging panel, which is made up of the
strong short list.
Yes, so
that's a long list.
Yeah, there's two, good number of people from Jaguar Land Rover, and then you've got some National Geographic people, some UNICEF people, you've got some Wildlife Conservation Action Committee people, Solar Impulse Foundation people, all these different sort of folks involved in judging. So I don't think that this is like the Defender Service Awards where it's put out to the general public and voted on based on that. I think this is chosen by an illustrious group of international experts.
You think Jerry's on there?
I don't know where Jerry is. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. No one knows. No one knows. We reached out to him to see if he'll call us back, but have yet heard nothing.
I thought we heard that he might call in the show.
Maybe. I mean, we've asked, we've reached out and, as usual, Jerry was interested in participating, but after some reductive design and scheduling, we haven't heard back. So.
Well, I got my fingers crossed.
Yep.
I'm going to be really sad.
I can hear from him.
Did you see about the winners? Did you read about the winners?
I did a little bit see that there are some, it's interesting. There's an interesting group. It seems like sort of similar to the same people that would win in the Defender Service Awards. There's the 1,000-Year Trust, which is in the UK, which is, I guess there's a rainforest in Cornwall. I didn't know that.
10,000 rains there a lot.
Yeah, so there's some conservatory or some conservation work going in on there. The Japanese winner was the Next Commons Lab, which is interesting. It's again forestry.
Did you see the Australia Skin Check Champions?
I did see that. Yes,
so it's just like a bunch of dudes like driving around and looking at people's moles and stuff.
Yeah, like let me see you skin there, boy. What's it looking like? And they'd be like, hey. That crikey, look at that mole. Yeah, I imagine that's what's happening right now. They're just doing that.
It's happening. It's happening. Well, good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Yeah, good for them. That's cool.
I think that's probably helping a lot of people out.
Speaking of helping a lot of people out, I don't know if you've seen the latest news on the update to the Range Rover Velar, which I know is one of your all-time favorites. This latest news now coming out of Spy Photos in the UK is that this is the most road-going Range Rover ever built. In fact, it's described in this article, and this is why I like this article quite a bit, is it to become a more wagon-like thing. More wagon-like thing.
What's the difference between a station wagon and like a compact SUV?
Yeah, I don't know anymore. We don't really make station wagons. I think station wagons are cooler.
Of like the length to the height?
I think it's a length to height thing. Yeah, I think like station wagons are a car with full-size back, right? With a hatched back, whereas the SUV is like a taller version of that. But otherwise, functionally, I think, and that's the most important, no difference at all. It's just a station.
Yeah, this is described as a stretched-out, high-riding wagon.
I don't even know what that means. Yeah. So
maybe they need those skin check guys to have a look at
exactly. That. The least effective off-road Range Rover ever built is what it sounds like. So
it is a high riding wagon, though.
It is a high riding wagon. That's how I describe you to people. You know, I like that. Ike, he's a high riding wagon. That guy. You know, he really knows his stuff. High riding wagon.
Well, I, for one, like station wagons, so I wouldn't mind if Land Rover made a station wagon. I think that could be cool.
It could be cool. Could be cool. Could be cool. Depends on how reductive that design is.
I mean, fairly reductive.
It's gonna be.
Doesn't even have a steering wheel anymore.
Speaking of reductive, there's some news around the new Range Rover logo. Remember that? Remember the new Range Rover logo?
What?
Do you remember that?
That was so long ago.
I know,
they must
like
be
Dolce & Gabbana kind of looking. Yeah.
They must be using that a lot since they introduced it. A year ago, or July 2025.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now.
Coming up on a year.
I don't know. Have you seen it on anything lately?
Well, I feel like I did have a look at the new Range Rover, 2026 Range Rover on the Range Rover website. And it appeared to be absent from the vehicle entirely. Why do you think that is?
I think because it was not unlike the dropping the Land Rover name, met with such outrageous hate from the community that perhaps they have thought about...
They reconsidered? Now, what's interesting is, like, when we saw the 2026 Range Rover Special Edition unveiling in Pebble Beach, it had those logos on it, on the center caps of the wheels.
Of the wheels, yeah.
If I remember correctly.
And
on the website, at least, it's continued to be Land Rover ovals on the center caps of the
new not even the little Range Rover word, but actual Land Rover ovals, which is obscene in the eyes of some in the Range Rover design community. So,
but it could just be AI. We don't know.
We don't know. Yes,
but I would have thought that they would have been incorporating it more substantially into the vehicles and so forth. But maybe that's just like a branding thing that they're using, like on merchandise or something.
Some kind of mark, trust mark, brand mark, not trust mark. I don't know what it is. Wealth mark. Who knows? It's it's just used for handbags, that particular Range Rover logo, just used for handbags. Well, speaking of ripping off the Range Rover logo, I hear there's some controversy out of a Chinese company in not just copying the Range Rover, the vehicle itself, but now copying the ad entirely.
It's true. The chairman of GWM, a Chinese company, has apologized over its introduction of the V9X.
Ooh.
The Way V9X.
It is the way. This is the way.
This is the way. And so apparently they've introduced this new car, which looks a lot like a Range Rover.
Yeah.
And then they have created an advertisement, a print ad, I believe. And the print ad looks exactly like the Range Rover ad. Now, to be fair, I think the Range Rover ad is one that they used in China.
Okay.
And so it's not one that maybe people in the West have very much seen. It's a hazy, foggy scene with like a red light, and there's a well-dressed Asian man, and he's pointing at the car. And they did the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. And initially, I think they were like, no, it just happens to be a coincidence. And people were like, there's no way that's
exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's funny, these Chinese manufacturers that copy the Land Rovers, it seems that any time they try to copy one of these Land Rover things, they drive off the edge of the proverbial ancient steps, if you will.
They did actually do that, didn't they?
Yeah. Be it physically or in advertising, it's tough. It's a tough act to follow. Do you think they're going to be ripping off that Jaguar, all those Jaguar commercials? Think they're going to be making their own?
I hope so, because that would be amazing. But I've forgotten about the steps. They drove the Range Rover copy up the steps with a professional driver, and they just broke the side.
Smashed it right into a irreplaceable relic. Really?
I don't understand. Fantastic. They're just handing out permits to drive up those steps.
I guess so.
Nothing, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it must be tough there to get that going.
You think we could go do that?
I hope so. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's find a fantastic Defender copy, a Defender lookalike, and we'll just go smash into the side of those stairs.
Oh my gosh.
I think that would be really fun. That's what our show is missing, is more copying of Land Rover stunts gone terribly wrong.
We need to get on that.
Speaking of copy of Land Rover stunts gone terribly wrong, there's a new article out from the Carto on that website. Cartalk. That's true. That's a Q at the end there.
It is.
That there's 5 upcoming Defender lookalike SUVs rather, and they're not wrong. These are, again, I feel like, this is maybe it's a personal flaw. A lot of these I kind of like more than the actual Defender. They look a little bit more like how I wanted the Defender to look, sort of, especially the orange one. There's the Cherry, the iCar. Now, I actually like the Cherry iCar a lot, to be fair.
The Cherry iCar is pretty interesting in that it does have a lot of Defender design elements, but also it's a company that Land Rover themselves is partnering with. So they're
weird. It's so weird.
How does that even, I don't even know. I have so many questions.
The Cherry iCar, if you look at the wheelbase and everything, it's quite small. It looks like a Defender, but it's actually really little, which I also, of course, love. And so it's a pretty nice looking car. Oh, I did find a company the other day that takes the Jimny and does the Con Automotive treatment to it, makes it wider and longer and plasticky. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, what are some of these other copies that we're looking at here? Now, these are for the Chinese market or the Indian market, or
that's Chinese? Right. Yeah, I think they're definitely international market. Well, there's the Jet Tour T2, which we've talked about the Jet Tour before. Yes. That's a popular one. And I don't know. I mean, it's Defender E, but it's just also to me looks a lot like the new Toyota Land Cruiser.
It does. It has some Defender elements. I think the shape of the wheel arch and, kind of the proportion of the second row windows to the third row is Defender-y, but it is also very Land Cruiser-y.
Yeah, the front is very Land Cruiser-y, except for the lower bumper fascia, the air dam on the bottom is very Defender-y, but then up top, the way that they change the lights and the grille and stuff, that's definitely more Land Cruiser-y. But it's not a bad looking car. I mean, I like it. Of course, the iCar V23, that I'm a big fan of that car. Generally speaking, I think it looks super cool. And they come in insane colors. The iCar line of cars, this V23 specifically is the SUV version, but they also have car versions of it, and they're all insane. They're just they're a weird kind of Lamborghini designed, just insane cars. I'm a big fan. Cherry is doing some really cool stuff. They
definitely have the Defender beltline. Yeah. They definitely have, a lot of Defender-y features on this car. That little side vent. A lot of that stuff it has the narrower headlights, sort of like a FJ Cruiser-y sort of little bit of a grille.
Definitely FJ look.
From the side, it's very much 100% Defender lookalike.
Yeah. And I like that, again, it has a Micro Machines kind of look to it, because I think those are, 30-inch tires or something. But because the car is so small, the tires look enormous.
Well, the wheels are also pushed to the far corners of the vehicle, so that makes the proportions even more exaggerated than they may otherwise be.
I like it. I like the iCars a lot. I like the iCar line of Cherry Automotive cars, and the V23, the Defender lookalike, it's pretty cool. I like it. I'd buy one. I'd maybe.
And the third one on the list is the Renault Bridger.
Yeah, which is interesting. I originally thought that, the Bridger was a Bridgerton, and that one gentleman, that very attractive gentleman, would be in there just partially nude all the time.
Sorry to disappoint you.
No, it's too bad.
That is not that.
It's too bad. But Renault getting back in there with it's interesting. Is it the same Renault? It's like the car manufacturer, the shitty car manufacturer?
Renault has made a lot of interesting cars, and we just don't get them here. And I think that the period of time where we did get Renaults in the United States was the worst period of time.
Yeah.
So I think that retroactively makes all of them bad. But I think that they have made some neat stuff. I've seen some really cool Renault 4-wheel drive trucks that were like used in Dakar and so forth. Made some kind of neat stuff, but I don't know much about the current, Renault offerings. This one looks sort of, if I had to put my finger on it, I would say sort of like a Nissan Land Rover.
Definitely feels more Nissan-y. I agree. It's interesting. I like the door handle is so Defender. It's like perfectly Defender, but they only have one of them per side. There are back doors, but I assume that the door handle's hidden somewhere in there because it doesn't have a traditional door handle. Nobody can find it. You can't get in.
No, they're still looking for it today.
They're still looking for it. Yeah. So, but it's not a bad looking car. I mean, if you had to, I actually think that it's a,
and I guess there's a reason it looks a lot like a Nissan because it kind of is. I guess Nissan and Renault have a working relationship, but it definitely has a little bit of an Xterra sort of influence to it, from the side, I would say, which I guess you could argue that the Xterra has sort of a Discovery influence with that stepped roof.
It does, definitely. The Xterra is very Discovery-esque. And, the new, whatever the replacement for the Xterra is, they've all just gotten so pedestrian, They're all just kind of, almost every new SUV looks exactly the same. Funny enough, the Defender is the most standout design of all of them. And I remember when it came out, everybody was like, oh my God, the Defender looks so like plain and whatever. And now you look at it compared to every other SUV, even the new Land Cruisers and stuff, you're like, wow, they're just really plain. At least the Defender's got some weird unnecessary bits, like the taillights are weird and different, and there's some things on it where you're like, that's kind of cool. That's different than you'd normally see. I'm sure Jerry hates that stuff because he's like, it's not reductive enough. But
it is pretty amazing how influential that car is.
It is. Yeah, it is. It really is. People love it. And then of course there's the Mahindra, the new Mahindra Vision S, which
and the picture that they've posted is like a vehicle that's in sort of camo cladding, so you can't even really tell what it looks like. So no one really knows. It's got
the Tata, right? So you're going to have the Land Rover, crew potentially involved in that in some way. So I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if they have anything to do with each other, but certainly they have access to those individuals if they wanted to. So
I think they all have that like rear quarter sort of blanked off that, sort of makes it look like a Defender. But the rest of this car, I can't tell.
No, it's the pictures are still very rough on the new Mahindra. But
the new Mahindra New IQ. Vision S.
Vision S. A vision of Mahindra. I don't know. Yeah,
well, whatever the case is, there are definitely a new bumper crop of Lookalike Land Rovers.
That's exactly right. Well, speaking of brand new types of Land Rovers, I had the distinct pleasure of sitting down with our very good friend Joe from Lost Cause Ranch. And I don't know if you've heard what he's been up to, but he's chopping a Discovery 4 in half just for fun.
I hear it's not just for fun. It's going to be a useful thing at the end. But unfortunately, I have to go get something out of the fridge. So tell me what he says, because I'll be back in a minute.
I'm going to let you know. All right. Well, I am joined by none other than Joe Lost Cause Hasselman here this morning, live from the new ranch. I guess it's new to us. It's not new to you. You've been there now for has it been a full year? More than a year now?
It was a year this month.
Oh my goodness. There you go. So a full year in the new ranch. And I think we haven't really spoken to you in a non-Freelander race across the country capacity since then. So, I mean, first of all, welcome back. I feel like you're as much a part of the show as Ike or I at this point. Is you're coming in and batting cleanup whenever one of us is away or whenever some insane thing need to be talked about. So it's good to see you again, Joe. You're looking well.
No, good to see you as well. Happy to be here. It's always a good time.
Yeah, and so first off, let's start there. How is the new ranch? Now, you moved away from what was known as the Lost Cause Ranch, your home and home-built shop and all of that, to an industrial property. And for those of you who don't watch Joe's YouTube channel, but I imagine that the crossover between Underpowered, our listeners, and Lost Cause Ranch watchers is just a circle. It's just a perfect circle.
It's pretty heavy, yeah.
Yeah, there's not much. There's no fringing there. But you found an old car wash there. And, I like to tell people that you're in a secret lair deep below a Menards somewhere in the Midwest. But in fact, you're at the new ranch in the car wash. So tell me about the cars. Where'd you find this car wash, and why did you decide that it was the perfect place for the new ranch?
Well, so it actually just popped up. It was about 15 minutes away from the ranch. I really liked the ranch, and the old ranch was more of a ranch. It was like 11 acres, kind of a cool house, and the shop that I built, which, I was sad to give up. But we're in what is a actual commercial building once again, and the big thing here is I have 3-phase power. And that was kind of what I was after, and didn't have that ability when we were further out of town. So this kind of gives me the ability. We have a little, what I like to call a mini machine shop set up over on the other side. It'd be behind this wall here. And have some of the same tools you have too, but we also added a CNC mill, CNC lathe and everything to it. So we get and
the bender.
The bender's good now. It was a little bit of a teething moment for a while, but it's been working good.
It's true. We both have the Langmuir CNC tables, and they do good stuff, right? It's obviously heavily value engineered, let's say.
Yes.
They really look to deliver a product for a price, and because of that, some of the niceties of a bigger, more industrial machine are not necessarily there, but they do make good stuff, and there seems to be always a bit of teething around getting them to go, but their support people are great. And I remember at one point my table the auto height wasn't working properly, and the fine gentleman at Langmuir was like, well, is your laptop plugged into power? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course it's plugged into power. He's like, unplug your laptop and it'll work. And I'm like, what in God's name is causing the laptop to be powered? And that's why it's not. But it worked, really? And so it's a little bit of like a stand on one leg and like only face north when using the thing. But once it works, it does seem to work. Yeah, it does seem to work really well. But I am very jealous of your CNC lathe and CNC mill. What's the timeline, do you think, on getting those puppies fired up?
I actually was just playing with the last piece for the mill. I was missing a little solenoid that just showed up yesterday. So that'll go on, and we're probably going to be up and functional in like a week or two. So everything, it works and everything now. I just don't know how to work it. So we got a little bit of learning to do, which is always fun.
Yeah, that's right. It is fun. It's fun to learn new things. Are you going to use Fusion to do all your CAD CAM stuff? Cool.
Yep. So awesome. I've been using that for a little bit, and then CAD side I've been using for a while. The CAM's going to be a little bit learning curve on that. We'll crash some things and kind of brute force.
I feel like every time I do any CAM work in Fusion, it's like I'm learning it for the first time. It's like I could have just done it yesterday, but I'm like, now why won't it cut holes? And it's like, oh, this is the run out is wrong. And I'm like, I feel like I just figured out how to do all of this, and I thought I did the same thing, and now it's a new but it's one of those things where you have to give credit to folks that like work in the CAM business like full time. Like, man, it's like a dark art, like it's a real it's real tricky. So what are some of the projects you've got going for that CNC before, of course, we get to my favorite project that you've done in recent history? But obviously we're doing some sheet metal bending, obviously some aluminum bending on that on that bender, which we'll talk about in a minute. But have you got projects already kind of set up for the lathe and the mill?
Yeah, I got just a few like small projects laying around, and then I got a few product ideas for some of the Land Rovers we have, and then maybe someone else will need something. Like we got some just 3D printed prototype stuff that's ready to go in the mill whenever I can get that up and running.
Whenever said mill is up and running, Yeah, dude, that's really cool. I have to say, we're looking at a very small CNC mill just to do some stuff around the camera shop, but brackets and little plates and things like that. But yeah, once you step into that world, it's like, for a little while, I imagine everything becomes a CNC shaped hole. And so
I could do that.
Right.
Well, that's what I probably just created more work for myself than anything, because we can just redo a lot of stuff that should be fun to play with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I'm looking very forward to it. I'm looking forward to the videos. So let's talk about the ever-expanding fleet of Lost Cause Land Rovers that you have there at the shop. Of course, you have the the Nada and some of the classic cars that you've always had that are sort of featured on the channel. But you've acquired some new stuff lately, some six-wheeled stuff, some all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah, since the last time we talked, so I picked up an old lightweight Series 2A. That thing's kind of neat. I'm super excited about that. Yeah. So we're just kind of going through. That had a Buick V6 swapped into it. Prior to that, it had a Rover V8 in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing it came with a 2 1/4 gas originally, but we just stuck a 2 1/4 diesel into it because everyone said I shouldn't. So we have that in there, and we just remade the mount system, and then that'll eventually get switched out for something else, but we'll have the factory mount location back in. So we're going to play with that. Right. That's going to be kind of a fun little toy. We picked up the 6-wheel Discovery 2 as well late last year, and that's actually on 2 Discovery 1 chassis. And it's got 6 wheels on the ground.
Where did you find that thing?
So a buddy of mine actually across on the other end of Iowa towards Omaha had it. And he called me up, and I guess he saw the perfect sucker to offload it on. But he was clearing out some room on stuff, and he had this, so I just had to have that. And then back to our first time talking, it also has an LS swap, that same Ace conversion that I did many years ago. So it's kind of a interesting thing.
That is a neat car. It's an interesting. Why? Do you know why it was created? Did it have a purpose, or somebody was just had some Disco 1 chassis laying around and was bored one weekend?
I'll have to get the actual deep story someday on it, but the person who built it before my buddy got it owned a shop, and he was kind of using it as a display truck and like a camp truck. It's got a big flatbed, so if you haven't seen it, it is a Discovery 2 chopped down to a single cab with like an 8-foot flatbed sitting on it.
And dual rear axles.
Yep.
And are they functional? Is it 6-wheel drive, or is it just a helper axle?
It is a helper axle right now, but I'm working on collecting the right stuff to power the rear axle. But it is, I mean, it's a functional rear axle. It just doesn't have the prop shaft going to it. So a couple different ways of going about it. We're just deciding which way to go.
Right. Because you could, depending on the transmission that's in that, you could still potentially drive that off the PTO or do a drive-through second axle or, no shortage of fun there. Yeah, that's...
just what everyone needs.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's for your own Parenti 6x6, the Iowa 6x6. This is a very popular mod. Well, speaking of chopping Land Rovers in half, we would be remiss if we didn't, of course, talk about, like I said, probably my favorite project of recent memory. I think Land Rover community wide, not just because I think it's fun to do these sort of like more extreme modifications, but also just like it seems like you're really having a lot of fun doing it. But of course, that's turning what we would call an LR series Land Rover, but what the rest of the world just calls a newer Discovery, into an El Camino, into a flatbed rear truck, and so you're out backing a modern Discovery, which is pretty cool. And this is Disco 3, right?
4. That one's a 4.
It's a 4. So it's a luxurious, even more luxurious new Discovery, now El Camino'd. And I gotta say, I am a huge fan. I have been lobbying the Spanish government to allow me to drive an El Camino up the Camino Royale for a number of years now. Still no movement on that. They haven't returned my phone calls, but I do think that a television series titled El Camino Royale, where I drive up that storied hiking trail in an El Camino, would be fantastic. But you're living the dream. You're building your own flatbed truck. I believe once you finish it, you get honorary Australian citizenship, if I'm not mistaken, I think.
From the few people that I know from Australia that have been commenting, I think I do. I just have to put the dog in the back, I guess. Maybe a dog crate.
That's right. Yeah.
All I'm missing. So
You got to have that. That's right. Yeah. I feel like Ronnie Dahl is going to show up at your shop and do a rig tour, like he just appears like a genie anytime somebody has a tray-back Land Rover. But yeah, so tell me about it. So first of all, where did this idea come from? And then how did Justin manage to get all those parts here and all of that sort of stuff?
Well, that's obviously, by the past, I like to tinker with stuff. So that's kind of where the genesis of this was. But I've had this LR4 for 5-6 years, and it's been my main daily driver. And I consider the LR4 the most useful Land Rover made, just with the size, the hauling, the capabilities of it and everything. Well, unfortunately, a couple years ago, I overheated it and damaged the head gaskets a little bit, and it was having symptoms and then progressively worse. So that means the body was coming off at some point. So
right.
As you do while you're in their project, if the body's coming off, we may as well get rid of the back half of the body.
Right, you might as well cut the car in half. Sure.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's less work going back together somehow or something. There's less to put back on.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's definitely less work. Yeah, that's true.
That's how I justified it, at least. But no, there is a company in UK that is Long Ranger. They made 6-wheel Land Rovers, long Range Rovers and stuff. I assume is where the name came from. They also make a series of rear caps to make several different model Land Rovers into pickup trucks or traybacks or flatbeds, whatever you want to call it. They were sold out to another company that still makes all the cabs. I believe it's Southwest GRP. And got a hold of them, and we got a couple of cabs snuck into one of Justin's containers and brought over here. But no, I'm like, Justin, do you have a little room? And he made some room in his container to get a couple of these back here, and he painted up the crate. You can see back if you're watching. I got my Acme crate in the background.
See that, yes.
So
yes.
So we got him over here and went ahead to cutting a Land Rover in half once the body was off.
And if you haven't seen those videos, the sheer joy on your face of slicing that Land Rover in half, it's really to be fair, there's a little bit of, I think, probably anxiety when you first start, in that, once you start cutting into it, you're sort of on a path there, but you made pretty short work of it, actually. It's not as difficult as I would think to cut a Land Rover in half.
One would think it'd be much harder. Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking to begin with because, once you cut it, there's no going back. That is what it is. If you cut it the wrong way, you just start over with another one, I guess. I don't know.
You just go get another one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I know a lot of people in the Midwest would just wait for the car to naturally fall into two pieces just by road assault and things like that. It'll just naturally cleave itself in half eventually. But you really went for it. You went before it was ready, maybe, and broke it into two pieces.
Yep, it was starting to get there too. So it was a gravel road car, and the rear body was starting to show some corrosion and stuff. So we lopped it off and got rid of it before it spread to the part we're keeping. So I guess we saved it by cutting it in half.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. No, and I have to say, now that, fast forwarding a little bit and then we'll get into the fabrication, but now that the sort of the real shape of it is there, and certainly you could check out Joe's Instagram, of course, watch the video series, but the shape is sort of there. It's a good looking car. I agree. I think Land Rover should have made a 2-door Discovery. It's cool. It's cool looking,
Yeah, the squared off shape actually leads itself to that rear truck cab look, and I think it could have been a good thing. With the Cluck Defender leaving in that era, this could have filled a spot. Maybe, I don't know. It probably wouldn't have.
For sure. No,
3 of us would have bought one.
That's right. But then really happy about it,
Yeah.
Just super stoked. But no, I like a lot of the decisions that you've made so far as the shape and the angles and things. I love the underbed boxes and things like that. So what's your sort of, for those who haven't watched the video series, but what's your design process like? When it comes to sort of saying, okay, Justin's put this thing in the crate for me. Now, what am I going to do? How do I go about planning this out? What's your process for that?
So I'm very much just like a on the fly as we go and kind of let the project lead you to where it wants to be. So I was very worried, especially when I first cut it in half, it really starts to look short until you start putting stuff back on in the rear. Like it looks like we took 24 inches out of the wheelbase once I cut it in half.
Right.
But it's very much a get the body set back onto the chassis and then just kind of let it make the decisions, I guess. When you're looking at it, it'll kind of tell you which way it wants to go, and then you can kind of go from there. Like on my particular flatbed, I went ahead and boat-tailed the rear and kind of sucked it into not so bulky of a flatbed, and we'll have a little bit of clearance off-road and everything. Yeah. And that also changed along the way too, because when I ordered the cabs and had them stuck into a container, I had not had the six-wheel Discovery. So this was going to be kind of a different project with more hauling capability, because I figured I could take it to Menards and get my 8-foot 2x4s and everything with it. Was my whole plans with the LR4 when we made it into a truck. But now that I have the six-wheel one, that can do all the heavy lift, and that can get our full sheets of OSB and plywood. So now we can make this a little more fun of like trail rig type flatbed, maybe a little camp rig. We can stick a tent on it. But
it definitely, it's got that El Camino, like Subaru Brat kind of, a, feeling to it. And I think those are just fun vehicle. I mean, I love an El Camino. It's no secret. It's the dumbest car ever invented and also the greatest car ever invented at the same time. And it wasn't necessarily about hauling plywood. Nobody really knows exactly what it was for, but it was, and that was great. And that's enough. That's enough for me. And then the Subaru Brat, of course, with those stupid seats that they could put in the back so that you could try to still pass it off as a passenger car. I think, there's a great history of people cutting the back halves off of cars to make them into trucks. And I'm glad you're a part of that storied history. So let's talk about the actual fabrication a little bit. So this is an entirely aluminum, very Land Rover, an entirely aluminum, for our friends in the UK, if you will, back end of this car. So you went from, this is not a kit that you bought for a tray back for a Discovery 4. Obviously, those are that would be a niche product. But you started from scratch, right?
Yes. The only thing we bought pre-made essentially was the rear tab to make it into the truck cab. After that, we've been making everything. And
that cap, that's a fiberglass piece, right? That's going to get body worked in and everything. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So it's actually coming off this weekend, and we're going to start that process. And then we can final assemble everything. But so the entire flatbed is all aluminum. We're running square tubing and channel for the outer structure. The chassis kind of creates an interesting dilemma or problem to solve, because if you take like your typical Ford truck or anything like half-ton pickup truck, full-size truck, the frame rails run high on the bed.
Right.
So they'll come after the cab, it lifts up, and it's well above the axle.
It's meant to support a box, support a tray. Yeah, that's what it's meant for. Yep.
On the Land Rover or vehicles like it, the chassis sits real low. So you have a ton of space in between what would be the flatbed and the chassis. So you kind of have to do something with that. We are putting pass-through toolboxes and different things. But most comments have been like, oh, the tray's sitting too high. Well, it's just like a visual aspect because the chassis is so low.
Right.
So we're making up some stuff to make that useful.
And it's also sitting on the bump stops, right? Because it doesn't have any air in the bag. So it's sitting super. It's a bit of a low rider tray back Discovery right now. But you're actually you're gonna go up a tire size, right?
It looks like what I like to say, like a drift truck right now, the way it's sitting up. But we're going to go up. It's had 32.5-inch tires ever since I've owned it. We're going to go up to a 35-inch tire because we don't have the rear body in the way, so we don't have to lift it an extreme amount to make that happen, so we can still keep everything suspension-wise happy. We're just getting rid of all the clearance issues. And when we went to build it, I aired the suspension out on purpose. So that way we have our bump. We know how high the wheel's going to go, so we can build it to that capacity, and it'll have much more clearance once it's aired up.
I think it's super cool. I mean, the idea of, sort of using that space underneath the tray back. And I know in Australia, like, that's fairly popular to do the sort of utility boxes. It's less popular here for whatever reason. I don't know why, but, you might have, the little tow truck, the square tow truck boxes underneath, a bed here and there. I know there's some Dodges and things where you can open the bed sides have sort of toolboxes and things in them. But yeah, it's like this kind of fabrication specifically in like South Africa, very popular. So it's super cool to see like the properly weather sealed boxes. And you did those all yourself as well, right? The actual underbed boxes, and they're incredibly difficult bends. And these are like, I don't even know what shape they are. It's like an ultra trapezoid kind of shape. Like there's no parallel, faces anywhere.
No.
And you bent that all up internally, right? With your Tormach bender.
Yeah, that's right. It was a large learning curve. But yeah, that press brake was awesome. I mean, and that's why I ordered the press brake at the same time I ordered the truck cab. So this was all kind of planned out. But yeah, the boxes also make up the wheel well. So we kind of got that trapezoidal shape, like you were saying. And then we have a kick on them at the bottom to keep them following the body line to some extent. So I have it in my head. I just want it to look like it belongs on there, and it was made for the LR4 versus just slapping on some boxes from your farm store or anything.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I think like big diamond plated, powder coated black toolboxes under there wouldn't really fit the aesthetic. Yeah. And especially because this car is silver, like the unpainted aluminum already looks like there's it looks like it belongs there, like it's a really neat kind of way to integrated. And I do love the fact that you've kind of kicked in the bottom of the boxes so that where the sill plate along the bottom of the doors is sort of kicked in a little bit, it's matched along the side. I mean, you certainly didn't have to do that. Like that's a lot of extra work, I imagine, from a mathematical bending standpoint, but it looks great.
Oh, thanks. But and it was a fun project. I mean, it was like testing the skills of learning how to bend and bend order and everything. And if you watch any of the videos, you might be able to tell I was pretty ecstatic at how it turned out. But it's fun seeing it all come together, and it's fun having it all look cohesive throughout it.
There was a certain amount of joy in just having the press brake working. I think that at first it seemed like just the fact that it was consistently working, that was fantastic. So now how much of that, because that's a full CNC press brake, right? So does it do like a moving backstop and everything if you put so you could load, where do you even cam that? Is there a section in Fusion that, I know it does sheet metal, but does it do like bend stuff like that?
I think you could cam it in Fusion, but the onboard system with the Langmuir brake is actually really intuitive, and it's easy to just load it through there. So you can just set up different bends, and it'll just click through it, and it'll move that back gauge to the correct depth and everything, and then set it up. And my favorite thing about it, I've been around press brakes for a long time, not necessarily anything super recent new, but the compensation and nailing the bend is really good on this, especially for the price point and everything. So you do one test bend, measure it, and you just dial in how far degree wise it was off. And after that, it's dead on for that material. Right. So
it's just like calibrating a servo where you figure out where its overrun is, you let it know, and then it's right in there. That's really cool. And I have to say, like, from some of the bigger, more fancy, we have obviously a lot of defense and aircraft manufacturing industry around here. So, our machine shop just down the street has a pretty significant press brake, and, all that stuff. It just seems like it's a science unto itself. It doesn't seem particularly intuitive, and you've got to really know what you're doing. And, that's what I like about the Langmuir stuff is it tries to make those tools that are fantastic for a hobbyist a little bit more approachable from the learning curve. So you don't have to have have an engineering degree to run one of those things, which is pretty cool. I know the plasma table, it's like, if it's as difficult as a big, CNC laser or something, you're just not going to do it, like not in a hobby shop. You want to be able to like walk up to it and essentially hit like print out of metal. And it's not quite that simple, but it's not a lot more difficult. So
exactly. I like to liken it to like the iPhone versus Android aspect. Like the iPhone, it's for people who just want it to work. The Android, you can dive into more. We've had many CNC plasmas over the year, and you are correct in that, like, you don't get to tweak as much and you can't dial it in as fine as some of the other stuff, but it just works. And then my favorite thing about all the Langmuir stuff is the footprint. So what you can fit into a small space, like having a press brake that does 32 inches is not a thing outside of that, or at least a CNC one. Everything else would be like a Harbor Freight press.
Yes.
Converted over.
Yeah.
So that was my big thing on this is like, I don't have the space to have a 10-foot press brake that weighs 10,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So this is much nicer. So for like that home shop use, this stuff's really nice.
No, it's great. And I mean, it looks like from, the ease of running programs and stuff that you could probably do some small production runs on it and stuff totally comfortably. Like,
yeah, it's not the fastest thing in the world, so you couldn't like job shop a ton of stuff. But like if you were doing 10, 20, 50 part runs, it would do just fine.
You'd be fine. Yeah. Well, it's fantastic. It's so cool. And the level of craftsmanship is just like out of this world. Like it's going to be such a cool vehicle. I can't wait to come and see it in person. It just looks so cool. I need to stop by Menards anyways. So I'll zip out there shortly and stop in. So before we wrap up here, what does the future have in store for these projects here at the Lost God Ram? What do you're gonna make a six-wheel drive. You're obviously gonna finish up this amazing Discovery 4 El Camino. What else is in the stocks?
So we also have it's kind of been a long-term project. I got a LS3 Swap Defender 90. I actually put that on.
Right, of course.
Yeah, it's been sitting for a while. I put that on pause because I knew that all the machine shop stuff was coming. So I just didn't want to further the project and then have better capabilities for it after the fact and redo stuff. So I just kind of paused on that. And then now that in the next probably less than a month, we'll have that stuff all running. We'll hop back on getting that one finished up. We're making a custom dash and different stuff for that. So the mill and lathe will be awesome for that. And then we just got the lightweight. And then I'm actually trying to pare down a couple Land Rovers and try and get it into a little more manageable state. Like I'd like to be.
Oh my goodness.
In my head, I went through this exercise a couple weeks ago. In my head, I think like 6 is the perfect number. When I put it on paper, reality was like 11.
Right.
That would be a very good number. But I think I can get myself to 15 is the goal this year.
15, yeah.
I think down that from like
plus
20.
a forward control, is what you need. So we'll be sending that out to you here shortly. So it's all, you can make it a flatbed really easily. You don't even have to cut anything. You just take parts off. It's already there. Yeah, it's already there.
Perfect. We might add onto the build here.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. I mean, you've got land, no problem. Make a whole village of Connex containers out there, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's going to become a destination now that it's like a public space. This is you can find it on, do you have the Lost Cause Ranch on the Google? You can plug it into the GPS there? And
it's not up yet. At some point in time, it will be. But it is nice to have a commercial space. Yeah. People. Yeah. Because people visit. Yeah.
Sure. You got to build a little coffee shop, get a merch tent. It's like a Jeremy Clarkson situation over there, get the whole farm shop kind of situation going. I think that's a must have. That's a must have. I wish we had that here. We talked about building a coffee shop here, but we never did.
That would be cool. And I'm going to steal your idea you said a while back, and we're going to do some custom Lost Cause Ranch coins in the coin machine at some point in time.
Yes.
So you'll be able to 100%.
I think that is the ultimate. I will definitely drive out there to get one of those. That's the ultimate souvenir, the Lost Cause car wash, token. Car wash token. Oh man, that's
and
so
that
cool.
Came from you.
Nobody.
That came from you, so we're going to do that.
Well, I'll be the first in line for one. Absolutely, Joe. It's fantastic to talk to you. I always wish we had more time. I always wish that I could be out there, and I will at some point. We've got to think of a fun project. I wonder if I have any cars you could cut in half for me. I've got to give that some thought. But at any rate, as always, an enormous pleasure. I think everything you're doing is so much fun. I love watching the YouTube channel. And for those of you who don't know the Lost Cause Ranch on YouTube, you certainly should. It is fantastic content. Joe, you do a great job, and we really, I think, as a community, love watching what you're up to there at the ranch. So until next time, keep safe and well, and can't wait to see what you get up to next.
Awesome. A good one. I appreciate everything.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see that Land Rover El Camino done because, man, that's my favorite format of car.
I was sorry to miss that. Yeah, no, I heard about it, and I think needs to be more Utes in the world, and
it's the mullet of automobile. I really like
absolutely.
it.
When you go to Australia, like they have a Ute version of everything. Like they have like a sports car with like a Ute tray on the back. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm not even kidding. It's amazing.
I know. Yeah, it's like Mad Max there all the time. That's just every car is just like that. So it's
so good. It's so good.
I saw like a 7-year-old woman getting out of a Ute like style, like muscle car, like El Camino style muscle car, and going into the hardware store to like, I assume buy snakes or something in Australia. And it was amazing. It was just like, and she had a crazy mullet. And she was like, looked like she was made of leather. And it was just, I was like, everything is right there. It's fantastic.
Gotta pop by the shops to get me snakes.
Gotta get me snakes. Yeah. And then, it's just, so good. It was so good. Again, Australia is like one of the greatest countries in the world, not just from like a freedom of expression and thinking standpoint, but they have some of the most outrageous cars in the world.
They sure do. And I think they feel the same way about us. Every time I talk to my Australian friends, they're like, "Did you see that new pickup that has like 3,000 horsepower and weighs 16 tons?" And I'm like, no, I didn't see that. That just sounds like a normal everyday pickup.
That's just every pickup we have.
Yeah, they get really excited about all the crazy vehicles that we have too.
Weird.
So I think culturally we're very similar.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's funny, like the English love whenever anyone from the UK comes over here to rent a Mustang at the airport because they're like, oh man, I want the Mustang so bad. And now you can get them in the UK only in the last 10 years or whatever, you've been able to do that. But before that, man, they were just like, this is the greatest thing. And we're like, that is literally the car you rent at the airport. Like, no one cares. No one wants that here. But they love it because they can't have it, right? It's just like us where we're like, oh my God, a Jimny. And everyone else in the world is like, that's dumb. Like, why do you want this? My grandma has one. It's stupid. Yeah,
it's true.
So, there you go.
Well, speaking of things that nobody wants, I've recently seen a film that, while it has no Land Rover content, it definitely has the spirit of a Land Rover. Mm-hmm. And the movie is called Sorcerer, and it's a 1978 film. And the premise of the film is that there's an out-of-control burning oil well in the middle of the jungle, and the only way to seal up the oil well is to blow it up.
And Steven Seagal has to do it.
The only way to blow it up is because there's no explosives around, so they find some like outdated, unstable nitroglycerin.
Oh, nice.
And no pilot, no helicopter pilot is willing to take it to the oil well.
Reasonable, yeah.
And
I don't blame him.
So they get a ragtag band of misfits to fix up a bunch of old army trucks and drive it 200 miles through the jungle.
I love it.
And it's incredible. The scenes of the convoy driving through the jungle and overcoming, down trees and washouts and like crazy unstructural bridges and all this stuff. It's really pretty amazing. It's deep mud and rocks.
That's awesome. I love a good
it's
like
an expedition.
It's an expedition caper kind of.
There's not too many of them though. And this one definitely stands out. The scenes of them driving through the jungle are legitimately like they're pretty nerve-wracking,
Right.
It definitely seems pretty sketchy. So
feels like it was in the time where you'd actually go and do that stuff and not just
there's no CGI. So they literally did all the stuff. So.
That's awesome. What where did you find it? What service is it on?
I think it's on, like, you can rent it on Amazon or whatever, but it apparently was like a fairly critically well-received film at the time of its release.
I see.
And so it's not actually that obscure. And I think, to be fair, it is actually a remake of a 50s film, which I have not seen. So I need to go back and watch.
I honestly thought it was about wizards. Honestly, if I was looking at it, I would be like, that's about wizards.
It's just the name. That's just the name. There's no wizards, unfortunately.
That's too bad.
That would be cool.
Yeah, you throw a couple wizards in there and it only makes it better. It only makes it better. And on that's all the time we have for this week. But
it's been coming a banger.
Up, we got some good stuff. We got some good stuff coming up in the future here, and we'll be sure to continue to reach out to the Land Rover's Ministry of Communications there to see if we cannot get some time scheduled with Dr. Professor Monsignor Jerry McGovern to sort of just explain what's going on there at the old JLR HQ. Still nothing back on that, but you have our word that we are working around the clock to secure that interview. So with that, we'll see you next week.
All right. Talk to you soon.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Barris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.